So we've taken you on some garage tours in the past, but now it's my turn. I'm gonna bring you into my garage and probably one of the more efficient 220 square feet you've ever seen in a garage. Come on, let's get it. What's going on? Welcome to Long Island, New York. We're here in my personal garage, and obviously it's not that large. In fact, I would go on to say that I only have about 220 square feet. It's not a lot, but you gotta work with what you're given. And that's exactly what I've tried to do here. I tried to make it as efficient as possible for myself. And the goal was to come up with stations and areas that allows me to build any car that I want to build and do it here. And I have. I've built plenty of cars here with this setup. So I'm pretty proud of the setup. I really wish that I could blow this wall out, maybe about 10 more feet. That would help a lot. But you know, look, this is what I have, and I made it as workable as possible. So before we get into the garage tour, let's start out with this. Yes, I have a lift. It's a 4-post lift. It's a Challenger lift. I really like this thing. I saved up a long time to get it. I did not cut corners with this thing. I have rolling bridge jacks, have drip trays. I have all the essentials. I'm also bite-sized enough that I fit right underneath this baby. So you'll see that I have no problem walking around the garage. And the one thing it does for my garage that really gave me a lot of usable space is it puts my car up there. Putting the car up there allows me to have the rest of the garage when I'm not using the car or I don't need the car down to work, fabricate, and use as working space. And that's what really allows me to continue to build cool things and be in such a limited space. So let's see, so I moved into this house in 2009 and the garage is kind of as it was, but the only thing is it didn't have a lift, it didn't have any tools, right? That was my job. So I stocked this place the best I could. And over the years, it's evolved. It's changed. I've moved things around. I've added different things. Again, my goal was to make it as efficient as possible because I only had this space. So, you know, that's what we've done. And let's kind of get into some of the pieces. So the pride of every man's garage really starts with toolboxes, and that's no different from me. And here's the thing. I know people are gonna talk about things like Snap-on being better. For today, let's just put that on a shelf. I have always bought tools and acquired tools based off of necessity, needing them. I mean, sometimes I go out and buy things that I don't need because I think they're cool, but I'll be honest with you, I have never used this in my life. I don't even know where I got this thing. You know, in the early part of my car building years, all it was about having the tools I needed to finish the job, right? So I've gotten very comfortable with tools that I think are a great value for the money, and I could care less about name brands. But I will say, I've got these US General boxes. They've actually been very, very good to me. And I've had them probably for about 4 years. I think I got this one when it first came out, and I kind of picked this one up as I needed a little bit more box space. But this is where I also use as a workbench. Like I said, I don't have a lot of space, so I've set these up so that I can actually do disassembly and do some different work on the bench. I'll do grinding here sometimes if I'm porting heads. Sometimes I'll do assembly. I've done engine assembly right here. I set the engine stand up going this way, and I clean this whole area, put a nice clean piece of cardboard on it, and then I basically will assemble an engine right in this area. This is also where I'll do any of the minor, you know, drilling that I have to do. This is a cool little bender from Eastwood. I'm not a big fan of Eastwood stuff, but I will say that if you don't have a press brake and you're gonna make a lot of little brackets, this thing is pretty cool. It will allow you to take up to like almost 1/2-inch steel and mild steel, and it will allow you to bend it in a way that gets you to about a 90-degree angle so you can make some really cool brackets. So I keep this thing handy and move it around a lot, but this is kind of generally what's here. Up here is kind of where I use all my consumables, right? This little quick converter stuff here. It helps when you're doing a lot of measuring and stuff like that. So also in this corner, again, you have to be prepared to have everything at your fingertips. I have plenty of power in this cord. It pulls down, pretty easy and convenient. Air setup is right here. I have a power bank of electrical outlets back here if I need a little extra power. These are all things that I've done in this area to make it so I can use this for multiple different uses. And you'll see I got some wiring stuff here. allows me to build some harnesses and different things. But also, one thing you're gonna see as a common theme as we move around my garage are things like safety equipment. This is just an old welding mask that I put the clear lens back in so I can use it as a grinding helmet. I have extra glasses here, gloves. I keep nitro gloves over there. I have a mask over here. So you might start to think that I'm just overly cautious, but the truth is that I forget to wear the stuff so much. I make sure I put it all over the garage as a reminder to actually use the stuff. I'm one of those guys that if you ever meet me, I probably have metal slivers in my hand all the time. Just the nature of what it is. So having some of this stuff around here really does help me to make sure that I hurt myself less. So over on this side, you know, kind of having the stuff at your ready, bolts, kind of have them sorted by size, 4 different sizes here. Batteries that are charged stay up here. Ones that don't, they go into the chargers. Torque wrench I keep there. Hood prop. Get hit in the head enough times, you get smart and start using one of these. Then on this side I have, you know, your regular Loctites and Molly loops and grease and all that stuff like WD-40 and stuff that you need. And here's a little tip for anybody that actually likes building stuff that's kind of OE looking. I found this paint, this Krylon all-in-one fusion metallic aluminum. This stuff is actually pretty good. And it's great when you make parts that you want it to look like it came from the factory. The color's really on point. So, I don't know. Again, at the heart of every man's garage is going to be the toolboxes. And if you want to see what's inside this, make sure you go over to our YouTube channel and check out my toolbox tour. It's there. I went through all these. I'm going to tell you all the tools that I have in here. And again, I'm not a huge fan of, you know, snap-on big dollar tools, and not because they're not great. We're not debating that. What I'm saying is that as I've acquired tools, they've always been the tools that I could afford, but were good bang for the buck. And I'm gonna show you everything I have in here, and I've built countless number of cars. So this might be a cool thing if you're kind of building your tool collection. All right, so we talked about the toolboxes. Let's start to roll backward here, and I'll kind of bring you into the rest of the garage. This is the area where a lot of fab happens. Let me introduce you to my little grinding, welding, sanding, cutting corner. So into this grind, fab, sanding, grinding, cutting corner, this is kind of where I do all the grinding I need to do. The only downside I have with this area is the fact that it gets dirty real fast, and essentially I'm putting metal shavings and all these different things on the floor, but at least it's in an area where I can grab a broom and clean it up. Again, I've tried to do everything I can to utilize the square footage I have. Sometimes it's not easy, but like this grinder, sometimes it's fine, but when the car is down and I need to get around the car, it can be a problem. So what I've done is I've made this bracket to allow this to pull off the wall, and I can just store it under a bench or something. And then when it's time to use it, I can just quickly put it on here and put it right back into place. Well, sometimes. So that's one of those things, again, I've used as a space-saving feature. I think it's pretty cool. It works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody else, but again, use what you got, right? So right here, again, you'll notice I have another smaller grinder. And look, here's the thing. I do a lot of welding. This is not made for grinding metal. This grinds metal. This is what I use to sharpen tungsten and do any fine tuning on the stuff that I'm gonna be using for welding. So if I'm gonna be grinding a piece of metal into shape, I'll start here with a 6-inch grinder. But if I need to sharpen a tungsten, that's where I'm coming to this guy. So that's kind of why it's just tucked into that little corner. So this is probably one of my favorite used purchases that I have ever made. If you're not familiar with what this is, it's a Grizzly grinder. It's super powerful to the point where, like, if you're not paying attention and you kind of don't put the metal in right, you can suck it right down the hole and it will shoot out at you. And I've done that before and it sucks. This thing will allow me to get metal into shape so fast to really be able to you know, get really finessed shapes. It has a lot of grinding capability. I have a 12-inch sander over here. Yeah, it's kind of in a tough spot, but this is like super important for a lot of the work that I do and a lot of the parts that I make. So the sander is here. You'll see, again, gloves everywhere. Protective things everywhere. Again, it's not because I'm overly cautious. It's because I forget to use this stuff all the time. So I leave it in my way, so I purposely put it on and try to save myself from injury. Doesn't always work, but I try. This is a swag off-road bandsaw table, and if you have limited space but like to cut things that are, you know, big steel, heavy steel, thick steel, aluminum, different things, this thing is awesome. I have a Harbor Freight Bauer portable bandsaw that kind of slides right in, and the swag off-road stuff, they just basically go ahead and they make these adapter plates to work with almost any combination that you have. It's all listed on their site. This is a regular miter gauge, so I can go ahead and get the angles right if I need to be specific. And I can slide this in from this tool. It can go into the sander and the grinder. So it's a pretty cool little thing. I don't use it a ton, but it is useful when you have to have like a really square piece. So coming right down here, you'll see I have this little cheap belt sander. I put these surface conditioning belts on here, and you'll see like, basically they're these Scotch-Brite type pads. They allow me to clean up metal without taking anything off. So this is not gonna be the thing I use for grinding, but it is the thing I use for brightening or shining or cleaning before I may go and try to weld something so that there's no contamination on it. So in the nature of trying to save space, you'll see a common theme around the garage is that I'm trying to use every little square inch I can to gain space back. And that's no different than what I've done up here. If you look, my jack stands are all mounted on the wall, not for being fancy, but it does keep them off the floor, so I can get my jack in here that I use once in a while, and I can put some other little things in here. You'll see these poles. These poles are actually what I use to do my alignments. So I have them labeled with front and rear pole. They're notched. I run a piece of string from front to back on each pole, and then I square up a box, and I'm able to do my alignments and actually do them here in the garage, and it's super easy with the lift. Have slip plates that go right underneath the tires, and I'm able to really do everything without having to leave here. And that's always been my thing. If I change a wheel and tire setup, if I need to fine tune a look, I'm able to do it right here. And so I take a lot of pride in being able to do that. You see the swag off-road thing is on a little stand I made just to get it up to working height, nothing crazy. And chop saw. Listen, when you bring out the big guns sometimes, you need to have something that's gonna be able to move through those big guns. And this chop saw I've used for many years, and it does just that. Cuts pretty much anything in its way. Cutting, grinding, sanding to prep, then comes over here, and this is where we're gonna actually weld some stuff. Now, again, I don't have a lot of space. I know that. This is not a dream situation. This is not a dream garage, but for me, I'm making it work. And one of the things you'll see here is I have my argon tanks. I got the big boy, and this tank I use for purging. So if you do any stainless, you'll see that I have a multitude of these different size plugs here so that I can actually purge stainless out. And you just kind of jam these in each side of the pipe and then run some argon and try to purge the atmospheric air out so that you have a clean weld on the inside too. That's what I use these guys for. TIG welder, MIG welder. Look, here's the thing. MIG welding has its own purpose. TIG welding has its own purpose. I really love TIG welding. It's really something that I've gotten much better at in the past, couple years. So this little Harbor Freight thing, this Vulcan one, it's not the cheapest, but it's sure as hell not the most expensive. Pretty good machine for the buck. I think I'll probably get something better at some point, but this has been a really cool machine, so I enjoy having it. So staying with that theme of trying to be efficient, you'll see I have air hookups and everything back here as well. I also have power cords. I have electrical things all the way around, so I have electric and air kind of wherever I sit in the garage. It's important to have. I mean, whether you're trying to use it for metal or grinding, or whatever it may be, or if you need to be able to use it to quickly plug in a different tool. If I have the lift down, it might be in my way. So I need to be able to be sufficient in this corner rather than have to go all the way to the front to grab an air hose. So if you're a welder, you probably already know this, but one of the things you can do, especially if you're just getting into it and you want to go buy those expensive TIG rod holders, is I've used some PVC, 1.5 inch PVC, 2 inch PVC top. Use these adapters, and you can essentially make your own TIG rod holders for virtually a fraction of a cost of one of the actual real guys. I saw this from Jody at weldingtipsandtricks.com. Super useful channel, and he kind of has these same things, and he's been welding for a million years. So So I put a bunch of these together. Then on this side, I really just have some pegboard that I've set up on the side of the wall to hold a bunch of different things. You know, I randomly throw some timing belts, I guess. But you know, work lights, ratchet straps, tons of funnels and bleeders. You can see I stock up on gloves and different safety items. It's because I burn through them regularly, and when I do, I just grab another pair off the wall. AC crap, heat guns and different things. These are some brackets that I use to pull engines out of the cars, hammers, etc., etc., etc. So this stuff is all the stuff that you would think that you would find kind of laying around the garage. I keep it over here. It's kind of miscellaneous, but you know, it works for me. And organization stuff, I try to be as organized as I can. Different screws, bolts, seals. You know, I keep a lot of seals and different things, gaskets, odds and ends. I have some deuce fasteners in there, copper crush washers, pretty much everything I would use to kind of make stuff, fabricate stuff, or kind of get things mocked up. So you see my filthy car that's up there, but I have the lift pump right here. This is where I can, you know, lower it or raise it. Pretty simple, not really a hard thing to do, but again, it allows me to be back here and not trap myself in. That seems to be an important problem when you have it blocking you. So most part, the lift is up, and back here I kind of keep my ramps to get up there, because again, the car is super low, so I need those ramps to get onto those ramps so I can get onto this lift. So that's pretty much it. I walked you around the garage, all 200 something massive square feet of it. It's kind of like not a lot going on, but a whole bunch going on, right? So that's it. I hope you guys have a good working space as well, and we will catch you on the next one.